Hello, everybody. Hope you enjoy your snow day today. I guess we have another one. Oh, man. Getting through it. Miss yous. All right, so moving on here. Start off with a bell ringer. So, describe what trickle down economics is and how President Hoover tried to help the weakened American economy. There you go. Give you 3 seconds, pause the video, write down your response, and I'm going to go over it. So we talked about the Holly Smoot tariff and how that raised tariffs on imported goods from other countries and how that was an idea to try to boost the American economy with people buying American products and keeping American industries open. But just created trade wars and American products overseas not doing too well because tariffs were placed on those American products. So now, moving forward here, trickle-down economics was an idea that the wealthy business owners, okay, they would receive tax breaks and even lump sums of money at times to keep their industries and factories open, thinking that if people are still working, making a wage, that they could use that money and spend it in the economy to boost it, to make it go in the right direction. But again, business owners thought this is stupid, right? Why are we going to continue to add to this oversupply? We're not going to make a profit. We're wasting money. We're losing money. And it just doesn't make sense keeping these industries open. So overall, it just created more issues and more problems, prolonging the depression. All right, so real quick today, I want to get over some public works projects, and then I want to talk about the Dust Bowl. I'll introduce it anyway. So with Hoover, okay, one thing I want to discuss and go over with you is that he really was trying his best to really pull the economy out of depression through different methods, and it obviously wasn't working as well with the Holly Smoot tariff, trickle down economics. So finally came to a point towards the end of his presidency. He's like, you know what? I need to try to create government funded jobs, government funded agencies to try to give people opportunities and hope. And he did that. And that's where we see the creation of the Hoover Dam. And that was generating power to Las Vegas, right? And then southern portions out into California in the west. Okay. And that was very, very important. Obviously, that's still around today and still in work today, and is one of the most amazing architectural feats ever made. And so I'll post a video of that then to this announcement because that's really interesting. And if you ever watch Transformers, Megatron's hidden there. Oh. All right, so real quick, the Dust Bowl. Not only there's more issues with agriculture, we'll talk about business and how FDR tries to shape the economy in a better way. But the Dust Bowl, okay, agriculture. Still, we talked about how that oversupply wasn't helping anything. Many of these farmers weren't making money. They're losing their farmland. They're losing their assets like tractors, equipment, and barns, and everything. Okay, that they loaned out, that was loaned to them by the banks, and they couldn't pay it back because the prices were so low from the oversupply. Came to a point, many farmers that we discussed the other day were just destroying crops, destroying their own product because the government wasn't helping them in hard times. So even worse now, the Dust Bowl. Oh, look at these sounds. So the Dust Bowl, where was it? It was out in the Midwest, the Great Plains region. Okay, so here's the Rocky Mountains over here. Okay, right in this area, Great Plains region. And this is a location, especially still today, where many farms, plantations are owned here, and a lot of America's food sources come from this region, from this area. And more in particular, right here in Oklahoma, Texas, right in that location. All right, so major causes. Make sure you guys remember this here. So major causes to the Dust Bowl is severe drought, no rain. Okay, it was just one of those weird summers, spring, fall. Okay, same thing for the other year. There was just no rain, little rain. There's nothing there to hold the soil together. No nutrients. And obviously, if everything's dried up, that's going to cause dust, debris to settle at the top. And the topsoil is going to be really dry. Overgrazing by cattle. So cattle, for the first time, really, since really the exploration of that land in the early 1800s, farmers were using cattle to graze out in these open fields, and the environment really wasn't ever impacted by this. Yeah, bison, buffalo, whatever might be, but um, especially now with domestic animals like cows and herds of cows, first time this environment was introduced to this type of animal and ripping up the soil, eating up a lot of the grasses that held this soil together. So already we have dry, topsoil, no rain holding it down, and overgrazing by cattle. So overplowing by the farmers as well. So poor farming techniques. Okay, you can explain that if that's how you want to describe it. So poor farming techniques. Constantly, these farmers were tilling up the ground and pushing the soil to a point where it was untillable next year. It was really hard to grow anything in these locations because the soil was rid of the natural nutrients it needs for that product, for that crop. So soil was just loosened up and forced to the top, this topsoil because of constantly over plowing it. And then finally, high winds. High winds. So picking up this loose, dry topsoil and throwing it in the air to a point, in many cases, it blackened out the sky. So this in particular, here's an example of that. Okay, this is a black blizzard, blackened out the sun. In many cases, people couldn't even see the sun. All right, so this is funny because right, it's snowing out and we're getting pounded by a blizzard, but this is actually dust. This is debris. This is dirt out in the Midwest. This isn't snow. Can you imagine that? Piled up alongside the house's windows, all that dirt, all that debris being carried and really cast all across the Midwest of the United States. And it was a terrible, terrible time. Can you imagine just walking outside, debris flying in your face and your eyes and your mouth, and you couldn't see. You couldn't breathe, really. It came to a point where people actually were putting bags and cloth around their face. It's almost like us wearing masks, too. Oh, my God. But they were wearing these bags in their face or over their face to try to protect themselves from the debris and dirt. And people actually just locked themselves in their houses, boarded up their windows and their doors because any little crevice, that dirt and debris could fly through. Here's an example of a black blizzard. You can see how high and vast and long the distance that black blizzard, dirt, and debris is. This is a small town. You can tell by the water tower way over here, some of the buildings in the town over here. That's just one example of the Dust Bowl. Here's another picture. Poor little guy back here covering his eyes, getting blasted by some debris and dirt. It's almost like a sand blaster that you use in maybe an industrial arts class. Just pounding into your face and in your pores. And like I said, many people just kind of held themselves inside these buildings. And this is probably a shed, maybe. In certain cases, for Okies, people that had no job, no way of life, they would wander around in the Midwest looking for a house, looking for any type of shelter. And that's kind of what people lived in. As you can see, no windows because the debris, the dirt flying through that and trying to bore themselves and protect themselves from the dirt and debris. Migrant workers, big thing during this time. Okay, migrant workers are Okies. Okay, people would just wander around looking for places to, opportunities, places to work, just an opportunity to live. And people would just kind of makeshift homes and tents, marching their way across the Midwest, to the West, to the East, trying to look for a better life and a better opportunity. And a lot of these people weren't welcome in these towns and these areas because they didn't want these Okies, these people, these strangers, moving into their home or moving into their towns, possibly taking their job because they'll work less. And they didn't really have much to their name. And these people were so poor that it almost looked to a point where these people in the towns wanted them out because of how um, unappealing they looked, and because they were living on streets, and it wasn't a great look for their town, their community. All right, so finally, last thing, okay, make sure you guys remember those causes of the Dust Bowl. Number one, we have drought, no rain, okay, not compacting the ground, allowing for loose dirt to emerge, and there's nothing holding that soil together. Overgrazing by cattle, first time domestic Cattle were used out in the Great Plains, and over time for 50, 60 years, just ripping up that soil that was holding that topsoil, that cover, that grass that was holding the Great Plains together for forever, since beginning of time, really. And that was really just another major issue with domestic farming, grazing of cattle, poor farming techniques, farmers constantly tilling up the ground, really not understanding that, what, maybe we should do a crop rotation every now and then. And this allowed a lot of loose dirt to be unusable. There's no nutrients in the soil, no ability to grow. Then finally, high winds, casting these black blizzards into the air and sending them miles and miles and miles. It was to a point, it was actually a record in New York City, or New York City, where this dust bowl even occurred, where black blizzards were carried all the way across the Midwest to the East Coast into these major cities. All right, that's it. That's all I have for today. So again, more issues for the Great Depression. Unbelievable. See you guys later. Take care.